vascular access devices, down at the bottom half of page 3, you might hear them say they put in a Metaport or a Groshon port or a Portacath. Those are your vascular access devices. Those are going to take the 2 codes, of course, one for the device, for the venous access device, and then for the catheter. These are just some examples of how they'd be coded, so you can kind of read through that. And over in here, it's going to tell you about the cavo-atrial junction. So these last parts are just examples. Whoa. Okay, let's see. I did want to show you the drawing on page 7. Because sometimes you'll hear them talk about tunneled versus non-tunneled catheters, access devices. So you can see the non-tunneled one, the entry is straight into the vein. Okay? Whereas if they tunnel it, the vascular access device is in that chest, subcutaneous tissue and chest, and they tunnel that catheter underneath the skin to hook it up to the vascular access device. Yeah, it is invasive. Okay. All right, so read that out. See if you have any questions. Back to the book. On page 431, it also talks about if you have an infusion pump outside the body. Has anybody ever been given one of those? Get to pump your own drugs into you. It sounds really good, but there's only so much juice you can get. Remember, never let the pain get ahead of you. Anyway, those are outside the body, so they're not coded. The only thing that's coded or might be coded is the catheter placement. And those are going to be the simple venous catheters, not the central lines. Simple venous catheters in your peripheral veins. Okay, you might also hear those called as heparin locks, angiocaths, Abbott catheters, or Gelco. You heard them say put in a Gelco. On page 432, this might be helpful to you, because you know when you're talking about administering substances and you have to do it either in the central veins and arteries or peripheral veins and arteries. Here's a list on page 432 of all the central ones. So they're telling you anything else would be peripheral. Okay. So 432, those are all your central arteries and veins. Okay. Down at the bottom of the page, they're talking about a implantable hemodynamic monitor. That is to watch for fluid overload. Okay. Again, it's a 2-part thing. So they're going to have the monitoring device, which is going to be inserted into either the chest or abdomen. So guess where you're going to be? OJH. Insertion into the subcutaneous tissue of either the chest or abdomen. And then your device is going to be the hemodynamic monitoring device. So if you're still there, you should be able to see that. It's 0, monitoring device, hemodynamic. Okay, and then of course we also have to insert the lead. So it says a lead with a pressure sensor is placed into the right ventricle. So you'd have insertion, right ventricle, and then sensor monitoring device. Okay, so see some of these things you just don't even think about. I mean, you know, there's a lot more that we're coding now than we used to. So again, if I were you, I would make myself a cheat sheet in the back of the book. Just kind of a quick place to go and say, oh yeah, here's how I would code that, or here's where I need to go. Okay. Next, they're talking about intra-aneurysm pressure measurements. Okay, so this is where they're going to go in and measure the pressure in the aneurysm sac. And they are looking for the best way to treat it. And secondly, they're looking for endo leaks. Okay, so they can go in there. The root operation, of course, is going to be insertion. Then you've got to say, where's it going? Usually either the thoracic or abdominal aorta. Okay, and then you have a monitor device pressure sensor is your device. So you can see they gave you an example of it. Insertion, thoracic aorta, percutaneous monitoring device, pressure sensor. They're trying to see how much pressure is in that aneurysm sac. So they'll know if it's going to bust. Then you can also use that same type of device for intravascular. So you can go in and look at the pressure in the, like one example they give is that they might use it with cardiac cath. And they're going in to look at the pressure in the coronary vessels. So it's used during cardiac cath. It would be coded separately. And here's what bothers me. On the one above, you're putting insertion of the device. On these, you're coding it out to measurement. That's why I think it's kind of hard. It's not like consistent. So here you're going to code measurement. The operation is going to be measurement because remember it's either measuring or monitoring. Okay, you're looking at the arterial system. It's percutaneous. You're wanting to measure the pressure, and then you can use the qualifier to show it's coronary. Okay, because it doesn't really matter. You can use this same device intravascular with non-coronary vessels as well. Questions about any of that? Okay. On page 434, this is where we have implantation of the carotid sinus stimulation system. That is also known as the Baroflex system, and that is to treat refractory hypertension. What is refractory hypertension?